This is The Win, Special Edition Raw, where I share my personal stories of failures and successes as a serial entrepreneur. My views on how to start and grow a business using today's top online marketing and sales strategies. So welcome to The Win, Raw, with me, your host, Heather Havenwood. Are you over 45, 60? Are you relying on the traditional medical field to help you feel great and get you back to a balanced body? Good luck with that. At e2lab.com, Dr. Don Salio got sick of people complaining about bloating, inflammation, and feeling sluggish. He has created unique, potent, and powerful non-pharmaceutical supplements to help the body rebalance, detox, and get back to being healthy. Go to e2lab.com, getting you back to healthy and balanced. Hey everyone, welcome to The Win with Heather Havenwood. This is Raw with Heather Havenwood. This is just you and me. So welcome. Happy Monday, everyone. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Heather Havenwood. You can check me out at heatherhavenwood.com. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I own a couple of businesses online. One of them is e2lab.com. It's actually a pretty important part of my business and world. I'm a bodybuilder with my boyfriend, Dr. Don, and I don't know if I ever tell that story, but the business is called E2Lab, and we created it because it's non-GMO, vegan products, no gluten-free, no gluten-free products. They're liquid products. There's a bunch of different things: ultrasound cleanse, literacy, iodine, things that are literally like putting nutrition inside your body, and say that right. And all those products really changed my life. This is not like an MLM or marketing. It really is our products. It's actually my boyfriend's brain, his chemistry, his background in that. And it's pretty impressive. And also we have bioidentical hormones, and people go, what's that? And how does that work? And I'll tell you a little bit about it today. The topic of today is mentorship. But I do want to, share a little bit about my company E2 Lab, just because people always ask me. I just got back from Affiliate Summit. It was awesome. If you listened to my Raw last week, I was actually talking to you from Vegas. Wow, I had a great time. I met some amazing people. But the most important piece of last week was I got to hang out with my mentor, Joe Sugarman. Joe Sugarman is the CEO of Blue Blocker Corporation, which is Blue Blocker sunglasses, that made a lot of money, still does, but really made a lot of money in the 70s and 80s during infomercials. He was, I don't know if you remember how old you are, but if you remember an infomercial and they're on the beach and they put the sunglasses on people and they go, wow, oh my God, that's amazing. And then they show the filter through the camera, right? That was like revolutionary back then. And it was on Venice Beach in California, and they would like go up and down the beach and they'd ask people. And it was like a real live footage. And then it was at an infomercial, and he made many, many millions of dollars. And Blue Blocker sunglasses today are still hot and sexy. So anyway, he's a dear, dear friend of mine. He was a forward of my book. And we hung out a lot while I was in Vegas. So I'm going to talk to you today about, I call the importance of mentorship and the difference between a mentorship and a coach. So before I talk about that, I'm going to finish up what I was saying is bioidentical hormones. Okay, so go back, e2lab.com, bioidentical hormones. What's that? Bioidentical, look, I'm not a chemist, by the way. I'm a marketing person. So I can only explain to you from what I've asked many, many times. All right, so bioidentical, I'm not going to go into the chemistry side. Bioidentical means the same as. Okay. And so we have testosterone, progesterone, HGH, which is anti-aging, as well as estrogen products. So what does that mean? That means that when it's a cream, it doesn't go through, you don't digest it through your mouth. So what does that mean? First of all, it doesn't have to go through the liver and digest, right? So that's good. It goes right into the skin. It goes right into the muscle. Right. So the body actually absorbs it immediately. The other thing is bioidentical. Bioidentical means it's the same molecule that's already in your body. So you probably heard of testosterone and progesterone if you ever got it from your MD, and then you make you go to Walgreens or something to get the prescription. That's synthetic. So it's not the same as. Now, you're wondering, well, why is all this bed press, you might say, with bioidentical if you go search? Mainly that's because the pharmaceutical companies cannot patent something that's already in your body. Makes sense? They can only patent synthetic, okay, to put in layman terms, and I'm not a lawyer, but and so what that means is they can't they can't patent it. If they can't patent it, they can't make money. Okay, that's bottom line. All right. And also the gentleman, and I don't know the name, my boyfriend does, the gentleman who actually discovered this, how to create it. He what I call opened it to the world. He basically had the patent, or had the formula, the formula, and he would call opened it to the world instead of trying to make money off it. He really wanted people to use what he discovered to increase health and well-being. Well, the pharmaceutical company didn't like that because they can't make money on it. They can't take it and triple price it. So it's free market. So we have the product, $75 for a cream, which is super cheap. It's very well priced compared to if you get synthetic things, which are not good for your body. They're like triple the price, and you have to go through your MD. So anyway, that's what that means. And again, I'm not a doctor, but it's changed my life. Personally, I'm 41 years old, and I take the testosterone and progesterone and HGH. And people always ask me, why you look so much younger? I'm like, it's because I had this, I put these things in my body, and HGH is that lovely hormone we had so much when we were 20 and 18 and 19, right? That made us look amazing. So anyway, I don't want to go on a complete spree, but I just wanted to share with you because I get that question a lot. I got it a lot. So we have a new catalog out too. Okay, great. So that's E2 Lab. Let's go back to mentorship. So Joe Sugarman's a dear friend of mine. People always ask me, how'd you meet him? He's so amazing. If you don't know my story, I used to travel the country doing seminars. I was putting them on. I go to them. I knew everyone in the industry. I did that for almost 7-8 years. And through my seminars, I met them and just chatted and built a friendship over time, over like 5 or 6 or 7 years. And then back in 2012, I went to Vegas and I was visiting him. We were having salad. And people hear this story all the time, and having salad at the Sweet Tomatoes in Vegas. And he looks at me and goes, you're like a sexy boss. You should really teach people how to start a business and help women. And I was like, well, that's good. I wrote it down, and I was like, can you help me get that trademark? He's like, yeah. So we went kind of into business together around that. And then 2013, we created an event called Success Magnet Seminar in Vegas at the Palms with him, Joe Sugarman, John Carlton, Joe Polish, John Benson, and myself. And the entire event was around the number one skill set that he thinks every entrepreneur should have, which is copywriting. And he's really been my mentor there, about teaching me about copywriting, the essence of copywriting, how important it is, how really it is the skill set that he falls back on over and over and over again, no matter how many ventures he's created. He has Blue Blockers, and it's very successful, but he has a lot of other, what I call skin knees, a lot of other companies he's started. Some were good successes, some were failures. And he always talks about from his speeches and privately that he's failed more than he's succeeded. And him and I, when I was in Vegas again last week, we got to have salad again at Sweet Tomatoes. Is his favorite place. Same location, actually, of the sexy boss moment. And here we are in 2017 and Sweet Tomatoes. And he looks at me, he's like, I think you should write a book on, and he says this name, and I'm not going to say it because it's kind of a secret. And I'm like grabbing my phone. I'm like writing it down on my phone, like notes. And I'm like, oh my God, that's good. I mean, it really was. And I'm like, okay. And then I could tell he was like downloading, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay. And he starts saying the subtitle, da, 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 and I'm like writing it down. I'm like, oh my God, like that is the next book. And so we had this great conversation about, what is that? What's the intention of it? How can it serve people? And he made a really great point. I'm literally just sharing with you what him and I had this conversation over the salad. Okay. He said, Heather, people always ask me how I'm successful, and I have some spiritual rules that I live by. And I said, I know you do. And he goes, one of them is what you focus on expands, right? So if you focus on your health gets better. If you focus on your relationship gets better. So what you focus on expands. So, but people think when you say that, they go focus on money and money will expand. And that's not true. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. So what is it? What if I want to make more money? How does that work? He goes, if you want to make more money, you focus on helping more people.
And that really sunk in that weekend of like, wow, how many times have I just like, I want to make money. I want to make more money. And nothing happens, because I'm not focused on what really, really makes money, is helping more people. And if you look at billionaires, as we're, millionaires, whatever you want to call it, people in that are very wealthy that you might think of, maybe a next door neighbor, or might be someone in the news like a Jeff Bezos. What do? They're helping more people get what they want. So it's an interesting conversation. It's an interesting spiritual thought process that I really sat with over my salad and sweet tomatoes. And I was like, wow, how can I help more people? How can I help more people? It's really something I've been sitting with for the last week, and I'm still letting it incubate, as Joe told me to do. Sometimes he's like, sometimes you don't need to know the answer. Sometimes you ask yourself the questions, you allow the answer to come forth. He calls it the incubation period. It's all the things that he's taught me through talking to him, but also his books. All these things that I'm talking about are in his book. So he gave me a signed copy of his newest version. So back in the 70s, early 80s, he wrote a book called The 7 Forces of Success. And the only way you can find it online, the original, I have it, is actually when I got it, when I bought it a couple of years ago, I got it and it was like wrapped in the library paper, you know what I mean? And inserted, an insert had a library card from like Ohio, like, because the book is really old. It's in the 80s and the original is hard to find. But he recently republished it newly with updated stories, because the one thing he's amazing at is storytelling. Okay. And so what he did is he updated it and reprinted it for more modern times. He reprinted it in 2014. Okay. And the name of the book, again, is 7 Forces of Success, 7 Powerful Ways to Magnify Your Chances of Winning in a Competitive World. And what he does is it's many chapters, and each chapter is a story, and each chapter is a success force. Does that make sense? Okay. So here we go. Here's one of them. And I want to share, I'm going to literally read the story. And you're probably thinking, oh my God, this is going to be boring. It's not. First, I'm pretty good at telling stories, but also you got to remember some of this stuff was written about the 70s and 80s of his experience. Okay. So here we go. Ready? Now, this is success principle number 16. And I want you to think about what's happening today in 2017 with publicity. I mean, nowadays, a certain person or news organization, all they have to do is put out one tweet. Okay. And next thing you know, there becomes a news cycle around it. That didn't happen back then. It was a lot slower. Okay. And to get publicity, it took more time and oomph, as I call it. I think it does too today. It depends on who's listening. But again, the news cycles are longer then. They're short now. They're quicker now. Okay, here we go. This is out of chapter 16, which is publicity of the book 7 Forces of Success, that was reestablished and republished in 2014. You can find this one on Amazon. And he starts a quote from Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Quote, if you do build a great experience, customers tell each other about that. Word of mouth is very powerful. A principle that you and I both know. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to read it. Ready? Now, you got to think, ladies, if you're listening, don't get your panties in a wad, because this is 1971. Okay. So just relax. All right. After my experiences in the record industry with my teen clubs, I was in my new home in Chicago, and we had managed to make it through the winter without too much difficulty. Our firstborn child was born in January 71 and was supposed to be born in February. So we named her April. You figured that one out. My office was in one of my 4 bedrooms. This was where I wrote my advertising and did my pay stubs. April kept me company in the crib while Wendy was typing my letters and retyping my copy. I was really good at doing artwork, and I was doing my own full color brochures. Much of my work was now being done for various political candidates and for Shush Mountain, which was still one of my major accounts. I got along quite well with the resort's president, Daniel R. INT, who put me in charge of advertising and publicity. I took a great deal of interest in the resort, often driving up there with Wendy during the ski season. I would write copy, conduct business, take pictures, and Wendy and I would do a little skiing. After April was born, our trip stopped, and we had most of our contact with Dan over the phone. One day, Dan called me and said, Joe, our snowmobile program is not doing well here. What can we do to encourage people to go snowmobiling here? I thought for a while and told him I would call him back. Okay, inserting here. This is where Joe does the, he asks the question and then listens. He doesn't try to be creative in the moment. This was 1971, and the women's lib movement was getting tremendous publicity. It took me about an hour, and I called Dan back. Dan, let me read the release I just wrote. The headline is, quote, resort bans women snowmobilers, quote. And the story reads like this. Daniel Innington, president of the Shush Mountain Ski Resort in Michigan, announced that he will no longer allow women to drive snowmobiles at his resort. Said David, if there's one thing worse than a woman driver, it's a woman snowmobiler, quote. Now, Dan was taken a little back. He said, but what about the protests we're going to get? I replied, so what? The worst that can happen is that you'll get more publicity. Dan agreed. I released the news item on the City News Bureau's wire. The item immediately hit the national news wires, and the news items was read on national TV news and radio and appeared in newspapers all over the world. Overnight, Shush Mountain's snowmobiling program became the focus of national attention. Articles appeared in newspapers nationwide, and news commentators on network programs such as the Brinkley Report ended their news coverage with the item. Now we braced ourselves for the onslaught of women protesters, but nothing happened. Only a few nasty notes. That's all. 1 week after the big publicity hit, I called Dan. Quote, we can't let those women libs groups do that to us. And then Dan replied, but Joe, they haven't done anything. That's just it, I said. At least if they would have protested, we could have had more publicity. But that should not stop us. You did get a few nasty notes, didn't you? So let's issue the following release. Headline, women's protests cause ban to lift. Quote, because of the pressure from Women's Libs group upset over the recent ban against women snowmobilers, Daniel, president of Shush Mountain Ski Resort in Michigan, has lifted his ban, end quote. The second release made about half as much news as the first did. But interestingly, it was the women reporters who were doing the interviewing and covering the story. The publicity event gave the nation a lot of laughs, poked fun at the excessiveness of the women's movement, and drew so many more snowmobilers to Shush Mountain that the revenues were 4 times those the previous month and stayed at that level for quite a few years. Publicity has always been a fun game to me. I look at it as a creative challenge, a challenge to view and report the news in a different way to make the news fit the assignment. During my years with Shush Mountain, I was a member of the City News Bureau, which let me, for a fee, put my news releases on their wire for the Chicago's media. Okay, I'm going to end the story there. That's the deal. So first off, get the lesson. The lesson is he poked a bear, right? There's a bear, meaning there's a movement of something, and he poked it. How many times have you seen that in today's election cycle and just today's cycle? There's a big movement of something, okay, whatever the thing is, the time, and then someone does it and pokes it, and all of a sudden gets all this attention. Now, I'm not saying that's the right way because sometimes it backfires. Recently, there was one over the weekend that an SNL writer really attacked. There's a difference between poking and attacking, by the way. He attacked this person. I don't know if it was a he or she. This person attacked Barron Trump, okay, who's a 10-year-old. I think that backlash actually on that person, I don't know the whole story. I kind of read a little bit about this morning. That was an attack on a 10-year-old, okay? So really backlash. I think they actually had to take down their entire Twitter account and their website or something like that. Pretty harsh pullback. So there's a difference between what I call going up against a competition and poking a bear and saying, we're going to be different and kind of against the grain. And then, using as a publicity stunt, as they call it. There was one that happened a couple of years ago, I think 2008, 2009, in Chicago, where it was for a woman's law firm, and it was a huge billboard. It got national attention. And you'd think that got national attention in a negative way, but it got national attention in both sides. People were like, oh, I believe in it. Oh, I don't. And I believe that the billboard had two pictures, one on the left, one to the right, the side of the billboard. One was a smoking hot chick, smoking hot body, right? But no face. Like they cut the face off. And the other one was smoking hot body of a man. Okay. And the middle, all it says, life is short, get a divorce. That was the entire tagline. And then it had the name of the law firm. It was obviously a divorce law firm. And they broke their website. I mean, you got all this publicity, and it was a woman's run divorce attorney company that they only defended men in divorces. So it really caused this controversy. But I remember watching it on every single news station, right? So I thought, wow, this is pretty impressive. And of course, they took it down. But at the same time, it literally boosted their entire business because it was different, unique, and caused this controversy, and on it goes. It poked the bear, but it didn't attack anything. It was a particular view, right? And people didn't like the view, and some people were like, oh, that's funny. You know, some people were like, oh, that's kind of smart. I mean, I thought it was brilliant personally. Just the idea of it, having two smoking hot, sexy women, a woman and a man, and thinking that, you know, that's why you should get divorced. I think it's ironic. But here's the point. As a mentor of mine, Joe has completely Joe has completely changed the way I view life. Joe has changed the way I view business. And he's truly a mentor. And it's someone that I can call on if I really have a problem I'm thinking through. He can help me see a different view. And I just really love that about him. And so I just want to acknowledge him today. Thank you for being my mentor, Joe Sugarman. So that's it. This is Heather Havenwood. Go pick up the book. It's a really good book. The 7 Forces of Success. I hope you didn't mind me reading from the book, but he does tell an amazing story. And I love the fact that he tells stories. And he's really is a great copywriter. All right, guys, everyone, this is Heather Havenwood with The Win. See you next time. Are you a business owner that has a website but not tech savvy? Do you feel like a hostage to your web guy? The better question is, do you have a money funnel so people come to your page and give you money while you sleep? No? Then go watch free video at heathermakesyoumoney.com. Imagine having a money site, not a website, for your self-published book, e-commerce products, local practitioners like chiropractors or lawyers. Get a money site, not a website. Go watch free video at heathermakesyoumoney.com. Have you ever wanted to stop swapping your time for money? Ever wanted to leverage your expertise by selling your knowledge to hundreds of people? I call that smart. And now you can easily and effortlessly, without a web guy, create memberships, online courses, coaching programs. Go to heatherhavenwood.com/thinkific. Start making money off what you know today. Go to heatherhavenwood.com/thinkific.